This is a masterclass with Luminar Neo on how to do HDR photography for real estate media. This is a 70-minute in-depth tutorial on how to do this fast and efficiently. Let's go. All right, so we start off with finding our images. You can see on the side, this is where we load basically catalogs. You can take you can see you gotta find the image wherever you've put the folder, the main bracketed images. Label them however you want, put them wherever you want, doesn't really matter. They're just going to be, it's just your main source. So I have taken 5 bracketed shots. You can take 3, you can take 7. I don't know if there's any more options than that depending on your camera, but 3 will usually do. This one I just did 5. There is a kind of slight difference I've noticed, but you can see there's the underexposed, and then there's kind of a little bit brighter, the middle, a little over, and then the main overexposed. So we are just going to take the most under, the middle, and the overexposed. And then to the right in Luminar Neo, you see a particular box that says HDR merge. You drop those into there. And you can see underneath that you can actually batch render some HDR sets. So if you have multiple angles of a room, and you can take three angles of 3 photos of that angle, 3 photos of another angle, bring them all in here, and it keeps them all kind of grouped up, and you can batch them. This is kind of an auto alignment thing. It does make a difference. It's just easier to have it all do it for yourself. And then once you're done, choose those. You hit merge, it opens up another window. Nothing's happened yet. It's just showing you your groups that you're about to proceed and process. And you hit continue. And here is just, it takes however long it takes. Obviously, the faster your computer, the faster this will go. Just one is going to go quicker, but if you have 5 groups of images, it's going to take however long it takes. You just got to sit there and wait, and it's just taking all 3 of those images, merging them together, and give you an overall average of the exposures. And this is your base point to further enhance the image that will be the final image to export out. You're never going to get a perfect straight render or composite, no matter how good you set up your camera, and no matter how good the under, middle, and overexposure are. You have to further always do some editing. And you can see on the side there, Luminar Neo, if you don't have one, will make an HDR merge folder for you. And every HDR image you make, it will put it in there as kind of just a general folder. And you can move them out from there. So you saw it there on the bottom right corner. That's just where it put it in the montage of photos I have in here. Over here, that's your main catalog, so you can want to make another additional catalog import. But we need to find the folder that your main folders are in, and then from there, you can make a subfolder. You can call this whatever you want. I'm going to call this work in progress, name it whatever you want. But then I'm going to go back to the HDR merge and find that one photo just for better organization and move it from Luminar Neo's default HDR merge to my own folder, so it's easier to find and get as I make more for each particular listing, project, whatever it is you're doing. So you see that main folder is showing the original 5, and then the other one, it shows the group of everything that's underneath it. You can see at the top there's the name, but the one that's the merge is the HDR to the right. So the main folder shows everything underneath that you've further foldered, if you want to call it that. But there's my one folder, or the one HDR merge that we did. So now we're going to click edit. And here's where we further enhance the photo. So now we're going to explore some editing here. These are the layers over here. I'll show you what we do with this in a minute. This is where you would add, for the windows, the underexposed layer. This is how you get those perfect windows of outside, and then also having the perfect interior as well to have perfect lighting on the inside without blown out windows. Over here to the right is all your tools, basically editing, developing, reduce noise, color, AI, additional stuff. You can see right here under develop, this is where you'll start. I'm just kind of randomly going through showing you adjustments of what these do. This is always why you want to shoot raw and not straight to JPEG. No matter how high res the JPEG is, you cannot do this kind of editing with a flattened compressed image. You need the raw data format from whatever camera you are using. Curves down here, and you can see there's other little tabs: color, sharpness, noise reduction, mids right there. Like I said, I'm just randomly throwing this stuff around so you can just see kind of what it does. But as you can see, we adjust the light to be nice and bright on the inside, but it's also blowing out the outside, the windows. And that's why you have to, for one, shoot bracketed photos, because you can never ever take a perfect shot where you get the perfect levels of brightness on the inside and nice, crisp, vibrant colors through the windows at the same time. You can't. You have to shoot one or the other. And that's why we have bracketed photos, because with one push of a button, it grabs under, middle, and over if you just do a base 3. Or if you do more, then then you get a little more finer step in there. So anyways, that's what this is. You can simply, here's, like I said, the noise reduction. But we are going to reset this, and I'll show you why. So once you choose one of those little tools, it drops it into this edits tab, where this is actually layers of your effects. Every time you choose one of those effects, like develop, you make some adjustments, you close it, you pick another one like color, you make some adjustments. It keeps throwing those layers in here on top of whatever you previously did. And to get rid of it, if you want to start over, you have to reset all the adjustments, and then you can get the little trash icon to get rid of it. We'll go into layers a little bit more, but now we need to go to find where our underexposed. So click the plus layer, you click the load image, you go to the same place where you have your original HDR bracketed photos, and we're going to choose the underexposed, and we're going to bring that in. So you can see that the inside's way dark and not usable, but the outside looks good. At least that's a starting point where you can actually see the colors and the green and the blue, whatever it is that's through those windows that's not blown out. So we have to take that, we got to load it. It puts a little image right there. Those are other images that I've had. All you got to do is click on it once. There's still some work that Luminar Neo needs to do, but you click on it, but it doesn't show any type of indication that something's happening. You just wait, and eventually it brings it in. You can see it's a little bit darker. So what Luminar does is it brings it in 50% on top of your original layer. Right there, you can see layer properties right there. Opacity is 50. So if we move this down, there's full original layer. You bring that all the way to the right at 100%. That's full underexposed layer. So you just kind of got to go back and forth as you're doing editing. You get your workflow down, but this is what it does to show you that, hey, there's something there. You see it's highlighted with the orange box. You right click, you can hide it if you want to kind of get a quick before and after, as well as you can remove it. You saw some options there, but you can see the image does not come in perfectly aligned. We have to do a couple adjustments in here. So the one that you can see that's tilted to the left, that's our underexposed on top layer. So we go to our develop tab or tool under essentials. We got to go all the way down to the optics drop down. And this is kind of when we did our first HDR merge. Just click all those again and give a little time to think, and it pops right in there. Now it's perfectly aligned. Just click on the other ones. You know, sometimes you can kind of see a little bit of difference, but not much. The lens distortion and the other sliders down there, sometimes you need to adjust a little things to kind of further get it exactly. But if you roll over the lens distortion, it's showing you a grid showing if things are vertically aligned or not. You can see on the right, it's bending, but that's what wide angle lenses do. There's no way around that. They just do. So that's where the lens distortion slider comes in, and you adjust that. It kind of adjusts it, but there's a little bit of issue here when it comes to Luminar's fixing of this with separate layers, and I'm trying to talk to them about that, but right now we're not going to worry about that. So if we just close that, bring our opacity up from the layer properties of our underexposed layer, it's perfectly aligned. We go to our edits, and you can see the develop, it says develop raw. It's a little bit different than the develop, but so now we can see we can adjust the lighting and exposure, lens distortion, but we don't need to do that because we're already aligned. We'll go into why this is kind of still a little, Luminar Neo needs some work on this area, but as long as you shot your shots as perfect as possible, you can just kind of, the easiest way right now at this point is just to crop out the bend on the ends instead of trying to align both layers, because it's very difficult and it needs some work on in the program when it comes to that. And sometimes it's just not even possible to get them aligned. No matter what you do, you would think like the lens distortion, adjusting that number there, then you'd go back to the other layer, put the same adjustment number in there, would be the same, but it's not. It's actually like completely opposite of the effect. I don't know why. So just showing you that it's perfectly aligned. Bring that up and set. So you can double click each of those little dots if you've made some things, and it will pop back to 0. All right, so now we're going to get into editing the top layer. Every effect you do has a mask to it after you've made your corrections. So if you want to fine tune the areas that have the effect on it so it's not as strong or stronger than others, that's what we can do. So here you can see we got to fill it because there's not one there already, and we can't see it, but there is like a red color, which is our mask, that has been added. So we're going to click the show, and then this is our mask that's showing, that's 100% of whatever adjustments we make right now. Turn it off, turn it on, just showing how you can see it. But now we're going to invert it, which it's still there. We've just completely erased it all at once. And we're going to little by little, or actually we're going to add it back to the areas that we want specifically, like our windows. And this is how you're able to get the nice, perfect windows and the nice, evenly lit, bright inside, independently of each other, adjusting the colors and however you want the saturations and shadows, whatever it is you want to do. So we go up to our brush, and you can see we have paint and erase. We are going to start with painting here. Right there, you can see our brush. Right now, we're just kind of showing you, just the sizing, the softness. So it's the edges are either really hard or softer as we paint or erase, same thing. And our strength. So if we want just to bring in just little bits at a time, or you just want full 100 effect as you paint or erase, whatever it is you're trying to do, these are where you adjust this. What we're going to do is just kind of get a bit of a size, whatever works for you. And we're going to just do a quick general paint, bringing in the color. So wherever the red is where we're painting back the layer we want to see on top of the under layer. So right there, it's red, but it's because we have our mask showing, and then when we turn it off, you will see. Now what you can do in Luminar, and actually like other photo editing programs like Photoshop or Affinity Photo, is you can do a quick, easy straight line by start with a starting point, then you hold Shift and click another endpoint. Doesn't have to be like horizontally, vertically straight. It's just going to make a straight line from A to B, like you saw I did. And now we're just filling in the center with the rest. As soon as we let go, it all matches up. So like I said, we're not trying to be perfect here. We're just trying to get the general area colored, and then we'll go back and erase. And you can do the opposite. You can be perfect all the way if you want to do that, and instead of going around what you need done and then going back and erasing what you don't need, like we will be doing. So obviously we only want the windows, not the frames or the wood areas. So you have to go back and erase all the little bits you don't want to be masked. You see that chandelier is going to be a little bit of detail, but we're just going to be doing a general sort of erase here. We're not going to be doing really fine erasing and masking here. So now we're going to go back to brush, mask actions, and show to turn off the mask. So it looks dark, but that's actually what it should be. Now you can see we can adjust the outside independently. So I'm just showing you the opacity of 100 to 0, the default layer. But so now we go back into masking, brush, mask actions. And you don't have to turn on the mask. Sometimes it just makes it easier to see what you're doing as you're erasing or painting in whatever it is you need to do. If you leave it to where you don't see it and you start erasing, in our example here, as soon as you click and hold to erase, the mask will automatically appear. And then when you let go, it'll go away. And it'll just keep doing that. So it's just kind of easier just to have it always on while we're working and then just turn it off. So it doesn't have to think as much when we're doing what we're doing. So now I'm gonna kind of start fine tuning the edges where I want to make the size a little bigger, but the softness not as much, because as you adjust the size, big or small, the softness will proportionately adjust as well. And you're not going to want that always. You're going to want like where it's smaller but a little softer, and as well as on the opposite, bigger but not as soft of an edge. You want a little bit more hard of an edge. But this is where the click straight line point thing comes in handy, because to manually try and erase holding a mouse, or if you have a Wacom pen, to do that in a straight line, it's pretty hard. If you can do it, great, but a lot easier to just click, point, hold shift down, click a second point while you're holding shift down on the second click, and it makes an easy straight line within a second. So it's a lot easier just to slowly whittle away big chunks of things, as well as trying to get those edges. If you mess up a little bit, you can always repaint it or undo and redo it again. But this is where you want to adjust your edge softness. So if it was really soft, then that would be, it wouldn't be a nice hard edge. It'd be blending, fading into the window, which we don't want. So once again, click, hold shift, click a second point, and it'll always make a straight line. But you can see, because of the angle, it's, perspective is going from bigger to small. So we got to adjust down a little bit and come at this in like 2 passes. So we go along one edge, click. You see it's back and forth, back and forth. There's really no quick way in a lot of these things. You just do what you got to do. Click, hold shift, click, and then do a little bit more on that little bit lower part to get the lower frame edge. There's a difference in size. Click, hold, shift. There's our, there's our inner window. You can see the vertical wood piece that's on the outside there. So you just got, once again, you got a little bit of size, change the size, change the softness. Obviously you can zoom in, make things a little easier for you. See the detail a little bit better of where you need to erase the mask or add the mask back, but we are erasing. Click, hold, shift, and done. Just like that. Like I said, to try and do that manually, it's pretty hard. Spend a lot of time, wasted time doing that. We're gonna get this edge. Then you can, erase and do a little manual stuff right there to get those extra parts. Obviously at a curve, there's no way to do a click point curve, but we're gonna grab the center just to get that out of the way. Adjust our brush. If we need to adjust the softness, but now this is where you're gonna, with a mouse or a pen, makes things like this much easier. If you have a Wacom tablet, these little kind of things where it's just more natural to the hand to draw and not click and hold a mouse button. It's a little more shaky, but if you don't have one, then you don't have one. So you just do it, and then you kind of gotta, like you said, you gotta color like we did when we were young. A little bit of back and forth, a little bit of fine-tune erasing, trying to hold the edge as much as possible. And then remember also, we're zoomed in here, so we're gonna see those little kind of error edges, but when you're all the way zoomed out, most of this you won't see, so you may not always have to be perfect along these edges. As long as it's not noticeable in the final image of when you're zoomed all the way out, that's all it needs to be. You don't have to be perfect in these things. It's just got to be, just got to get the job done. But you'll find that you will not want to do these on your own. You're going to want to outsource this work, because if you have one job a day, yeah, you could probably get away with doing your own editing photos. you know, because most of these agents need these things next day. And even if you have 2 listings, see, I messed up there. So undo, easier, instead of just kind of switching to paint and then painting it back in. But say you have, at some point you're getting busy enough to where you have 2-3 shoots a day, you know, that can be 75, 100 or more photos that you have to go through each one and do this. And obviously that's going to be very difficult and take you all night to do. So that's why you go to a source like Pixelmob, and they got people that an editor you find you like, test them out, see what good job they do. And pretty much how this works is, you know, those people are on the other side of the world, so while we sleep, they're up and working, and then when you wake up the next morning, all your photos are done. You know, they only cost anywhere from like 40 cents to maybe $1 per photo, depending on who and you know who you pick. If you want to pay the extra, if it's worth it to you. But there's different options. Some of them will do like TV replacement, so they'll put an image in the TV. Sky replacement, things like that, where you want to add something that originally wasn't there just to make the photo a nicer end result. Things like that, or removing, you know, grass replacement, all those different things that can be done to enhance the image as well. VR staging, you know, things like that you could probably do yourself. It doesn't really take much to do that, but there's all those little things. You just find an editor you like and upload the photos according to how their process works, and in the morning you get the edited back. And you can still do your own with Luminar Neo. It's good to know. So if you want to know your own, how to do it yourself like I do, I like to know why things do what they do and how they work, so I can, if I need to, do it myself for other projects. And I don't have to send it out if it needs to be done quick enough. But it's also just good to know. It's good to know why things do what they do and how they work, just in case you have to step in. So this is where you just got to do the little fine touches of erasing and then painting back if you mess up a little bit. And once again, this is where a Wacom pen tablet comes in very handy, because it's more natural to the hand to draw this kind of stuff than it is to click and hold a mouse. But also, if you do get a Wacom, you want to get a bigger one. You do not want to get the small one, because the size of the tablet area dictates the sensitivity of your brush and drawing and how fast it moves. Because if you have a 30-inch screen, but you have the small Wacom tablet, which is like a 4x6-inch drawing area, it's got to proportionally scale that screen down to fit that area, and which means smaller strokes are going to do more damage. But if you have medium, I have a medium, but if you can get even a bigger one, obviously the bigger the surface tablet area is, more of an area that you can fine tune and control the brush better, because the proportionate size to your screen to tablet area is bigger. So they're a little tricky to get used to, but anyways, so back over to our tools over here, our corrections and colors and layers. You can see that the window looks really good. So I found the quickest way here is just to jump to curves before I do anything else, is my first thing. I start with the mid-range, just to bring the overall brights up. See how we're bringing back the color of the outside? And I do the same with the interior as well, which we'll get to, but right now we're just kind of getting a quick adjustment for the outside, just so we can see how things are looking. Then you see way dark, way bright. A little more brightness on the highs up there. And then bring back some dark just to kind of crispen that up just a little bit. And this up here is like a quick preview, so you can turn on and off that layer effect. You can see the distortion or the optics go away as well, but you turn it back on and they pop back. It's no big deal. But that one, this preview is an overall for all your entire image, not just the specific layer. So if we had adjustments on the interior, those would be changing as well, but we only have adjustments on the exterior right now. And then here's where we can start bringing the individual that only the raw format can do. So all we want to do is adjust, for example, shadows. We only want to affect some of the shadows area, but we don't want to blow out or underexpose anything else. So just bring our shadows up a little bit. You can see down, up, showing how it affects. And a little bit of contrast to crispen things up just a little bit more. And you can see if we hide the layer, another way to kind of quickly show before and after. So before, after, you see how much better it looks already. And like I said, it's an independent layer, so one can adjust the other without affecting the other one, in or outside colors and brightnesses. So a little bit of exposure, you can see like that, almost blowing it back out, but just showing that it's only affecting the top layer or our outside exterior image. And then you get your colors and sharpness down there, but I've found that doing this color corrections and adjustments in layers, not trying to use one tool to do it all, for me works better. So like I said, we got our base, now we're gonna drop into landscape, which is our foliage, our color, and kind of a bit of a sun color to really make the greens pop a little bit more, like you can see. You know, really making those shine out. See the on-off effect. Like I said, every layer has a preview of before and after, as well as mask, so you can go back and erase or add little bits of areas that you only want to be affected as much as you want the effect to be. So just slide things around, see how you like it. You know, it gives a little bit more pop with the golden hour. You know, so you can always make a morning look like it's a nice gold evening sunset, and as well as the middle of the day as well. So everybody likes that nice gold sunset look. So you just however what looks good for you, good to you, what works. Again, checking our work on and off, seeing how it works. Now once we kind of click, that sort of seals that and then drops it into the edits, which now it's another layer on top of the previous developed layer. And you can't move these around. You can't like slide one up on top of the other. It just puts them on top and they're kind of locked in that position. Which that's not such a big deal. But what is a problem is the way Luminar puts these layers in. So if I add a landscape, then I add another color correction, it's a bit of a problem. You can see that darkness around the windows. That's just because that's the mask that we have not erased yet, like we did on the first window. But we're just kind of doing a quick show so you can get what you need out of this video as quick as possible. I want to put a lot of detail into this because so you can get all the information you can. And then in enhance, it's kind of just an overall punch up of everything. And sometimes you might be able to get away with just an enhance in certain photos. It's just a general photo. All right, so back to our layer properties. Back to our masking, and then mask actions. Like I said, we can show our mask, turn it back on so we can see what we've done and not done. You can see the windows have all been, pretty much perfectly colored with the red, which is our color of the outside. Now we can, work on to the rest of our windows here. Just zoom in, makes getting the finer detail much better, and then not trying to work all the way out and get those edges or little areas that we have to erase or add. So that's just what it takes to do these things. You gotta go zoom in, zoom out, adjust sizes, softness. Oh, and then if you want a quick adjustment for the size of your brush, is the brackets, the left and right bracket, not the parentheses, but the left and right brackets is a shortcut to making the brush size smaller or bigger. So learn the shortcuts, makes things go quicker. You're working with a lot of different images or whatever tool you're using to do whatever you're doing. Knowing shortcuts helps speed things up quite a bit. So learn those in any program. Yep, just again, now we got to go through all the windows and little by little adjust our masks. Each area. Other photo editing tools I've used on one, I think Adobe Lightroom. Those on one at least has a pen tool to do the edges. So you can actually draw a path with a pen. But Luminar doesn't. It just has the click, shift, click as far as for straight edges go. And then everything else is freehand when it comes to stuff that is curved. Doesn't really make much of a difference. Maybe it's quicker, maybe it's not. Eventually at some point you just get used to it and you get fast at whatever you're doing anyways, because you start learning a workflow and just making it all work. But for most of this, when it comes to real estate listing photos, property photos, you're not going to do them. I tried. I'm like, no, I'll just do them myself. I know how to do it. And like, no, this is too much work. Too much work. Even if you only have to do like one listing of 25, it's a lot. And it's just easier. As much as you can release control, which is a problem for me, like I'm sure many, is sometimes you just have to let other people do what they do so you can move on to other things. Like, for example, growing your business, marketing, talking to other people, working on other parts of it. If you need to adjust other images, making new videos, things like that. You can do, the inside, and this is what takes so long. but you don't have to outsource all the images. You can do the strictly exteriors yourself because there's no multiple layers. There could be masking, but it's not as fine detail like we have to do here with little tiny areas and slivers of things. It's just more of a quick adjust some coloring, make the greens pop, replace the sky, or make the blues pop. That's it, you're done. You know, a few minutes of photo, even if you have 100 photos, is going to go very fast because you can almost make a preset and just copy paste once you sort of have a look down that you're just going to use over and over again, at least within that project. You know, it may not work on another project, but you could use the preset as a base start, adjust some settings, save a new preset, or just copy the adjustments, select multiple images, and paste that same adjustment at one single time across 30-40 images and let the program work. Go walk away, go get something to eat, and come back, and you know the effect is applied. You know, you didn't have to adjust each one individually. You just had to do one where the rest of the images are the same. If they're all like from a drone at the same shoot, they're all going to be within 10 minutes of each other, so it's not like much is going to change. And you just make adjustments, copy, paste, multiple, and walk away and come back and done. You spent 5 minutes on one color correction and seconds on the rest because you didn't have to do it over and over again. But back to our edits. We're going to get back to our develop for the interior. Now we're on our interior. So this is where I start. For me, I've found that just starting with curves to get my bulk of the work, color brightness done, is the fastest in Luminar. So I start with the mids, you know, push those up till it looks good to you. You know, it's all opinion as far as what looks good to you or the client paying. That's all that matters. Sometimes to you it'll look horrible, but to the client it's the best thing ever, and you're like, okay, fine. You know, it's the person paying the bills. It's the opinion that matters. So now I'm just pushing up the whites, the highs a little bit more. And then I go to the lower, the darks just a little bit. You can see on off, I'm like, you can almost really call that done for the most part. You can see the cabinets get washed out, but we'll fix that. But overall, like you can see, inside walls are nice and white. It's nice and bright in there. Don't worry about the cabinets in the woods, you know. But the basic walls and whites, like, great. But we'll bring back just the darks just to punch it up a little bit. But you can see by just even doing that little bit, brings the cabinets back in the floor, the color, just like that. So, like I said, once again, you could call this done for the most part and like move on to the next photo. Nobody's going to know the difference that what it used to be compared to what it is now. But it looks pretty good. It looks pretty bright. It looks nice bright white walls. You can see some colors and a little bit of yellowness in there, like an overcast kind of a color. But we'll fix that too. If you want to adjust the shadows, that helps brighten up things a little bit. Like I said, you'll find your workflow, whatever it is, but each image still could be a little bit different. You could still capture in the same room, like this kitchen. I'm shooting from this angle, but I'm shooting out the windows. So the lighting is going to be different than if I was in that opposite corner shooting into the other side where you see the rest of the cabinets, the stove, and the fridge. The lighting's going to be darker. It's not going to be the same light bouncing around and so on. So you can always start where you adjust one as your base adjustments, and then you copy and paste that onto the next one, which gives you most of the work done, and then you just tweak that one, and like I said, you can save that as a template, a preset, as something to add on later in completely other projects down the line, years later, months, whatever. But this is kind of a way to sort of bring back the darker colors. And like I said, there's a lot of other tools here, but I've got it down to where I only need a couple. So back to our tools. This is where I'm going to add another develop, to where I'm going to just almost kind of blow out the white. And you're going to see why I'm going to do this. Is I have my base develop, which got me a good starting point for bringing all the nice brights and everything back. But now I'm going to really blow out that. But now I'm going to invert the mask. As you can see, there's the mask again. I'm going to invert it, which once again erases it, and I'm going to slowly paint it back with a low strength just on the walls. So it just gives that little bit. I'm able to just control the whiteness and the brights on the walls without affecting the cabinets and the floors and making those overblown, and just having the white on the whites in the walls like nice and bright, how everybody wants to see these things, especially in photos. You can see just a little bit. You can actually go over the windows, doesn't matter because it doesn't affect them because the windows is a separate layer. But you can see having the soft edge. And we don't have to be precise on this because that's not going to matter. We just got to get a good color in there wherever it is you want. You won't really see the fading, as you can see, like where the wall and the floor meets. You're not going to notice how it's not a nice hard edge at all. I'm going to turn it off, and now you can see it's brighter now, but just on the walls. And I can turn it, so I'll show you on and off. See how I'm only affecting the walls and the ceiling, making those really, really bright, but it's not affecting the floor or the cabinets, keeping the nice color of brown or whatever the colors are on those and keeping those nice and vibrant. So this is where you like to do things in multiple layers. You know, put another develop, however detailed you want to get with this, but it's just got to look good. It's just got to get the job done to make whoever's looking at the property go, wow, that's really nice and bright and clean. And then they get there and it's like not so much, but doesn't matter. It got them there. That's all that matters. You can see now I'm just kind of going in the corners right there, just trying to just make the corner get a little more in there. But that's the example of where you don't have to turn on the mask to see it. As you paint, it automatically shows, and then as soon as you finish your job there, it'll automatically turn off. But you can see how it's just making everything nice and bright. See, it's just soft on around the edges where the floor and the walls meet. Doesn't have to be perfect, because that's why you have the soft edges. Nobody's going to really notice that. And you get in there in the finer detail if you really want to make it, but you don't need to waste your time on that, because nobody's going to know. You can see I have two develops. My base one. This is where the layers are a little, I'm not a fan of in Luminar Neo. As you click on, if you have 5 layers, whatever layer you click on lowest is only showing that layer and beneath its effects. the other ones above it automatically turn off. So it makes it a little bit hard to adjust if you're trying to go back and change things, because you can't see the overall effects blended together. It's only showing you that layer and below, nothing above it. It automatically turns off. Bad idea, but somebody over there decided that was good. So not a fan of that, but overall I do like Luminar over on one. Adobe Lightroom is terrible. On one was pretty good, but Luminar Neo is doing pretty good keeping up on technology, especially with AI integration. See here, you can show the overall of before and after of both layers. That's the original before, that's the after right there. So that shows you everything. Or if you just turn off the individual layer. See, now we're back on the original where we're going to go to our remove color cast a little bit. And that's going to, you can see where it's a little bit of orange and yellow right there. This is going to help get some of that away. And if you obviously, if you go to 100%, it's going to remove it all, but that kind of removes too much. So you just got to find that that middle ground of what looks good as far as where it's just enough. You can see it does affect the cabinets, the color, because we're moving that orangish yellow across the whole image. But that's where, once again, masking comes in. So we make the overall adjustment, but it did help get rid of some of that, just a little bit once again, and then also makes the walls even nice and more bright and white, which everybody loves, all the new buyers. But we can go further down into our, we're not going to use hue. I'm just showing you that that'll just overall change the color. So that's not what we want. And then we go to our luminance. That's our brightness for each specific color. If you want to really make, like if you look at the lamps, the red is really popping in anything that's kind of in that color range. The sink, even the floors, whatever, things like that. The orange, whatever colors in that. So if you need to make those pop, but saturation is where we can go individually and kind of pull a little more of the color we don't want, like the yellows and the oranges. So if I pull out the orange, which once again doesn't affect the cabinets, but that's okay. We're just trying to look at the walls. Like, see, if you look at around the window and the ceiling, you don't really see any. It's like the yellows and the oranges are gone. So you may want to have a little bit or not, whatever it is. I usually do like 25-50% in my sliders when I'm adjusting things, colors, sharpness, exposure, little fine detail adjustments. That's what I find usually works good. Anywhere between 25-50 is a good middle to get some of it out, but not all of it out. You can see we're losing our cabinets and floors, but that's okay. We're just trying to get the walls nice and good. Keep them nice and white as much as possible. You can always put in as much work you want in this so that looks good to you. Before and after. But this is where we're going to, so we have our walls looking good, but we want to bring our wood back. So we go to our masking, we go to our mask actions. There's a mask automatically there sometimes on all these. Sometimes you have to hit fill to add one if there is not one, but you can see there is one. We don't want to show it, we just want to know it's there. So now we're going to go back and erase the color Once again, with a soft edge, it does not have to be perfect because you're not going to see that little bit of a blend between old and new. So we're just going to go really with a soft edge and erase the color effect of this layer. Just get it close. You see, it kind of bleeds and blends, but you're not going to notice that edge in most cases. You let go, and now we have our cabinets and floors back. It's just a slight subtle difference on the walls up there, but it's just that little bit. You're like, oh, you can see the difference of the oranges and yellows in there. And you see it added another layer on top of develop, but when you click on develop, like I said, it's only showing that and below. It does not show everything above. So making adjustments is a little tricky because you have to like adjust and then click back on the very top layer, see what it affected, and can kind of fine tune. And you can't also say, like I also said, you cannot move the layers. If you want to put a develop on top of a color or whatever it is, they are stuck at what they are. So if you need to change that, you have to reset that layer so you can delete it. It will not let you delete it without it. This is just another enhance to kind of help the overall image pop more. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, whatever looks good. But getting back to the layers, if you wanted to have a develop on top of the color, but not the one that's underneath it, you have to reset the settings so you can get the trash icon back, delete it, go back to develop, a new develop effect, make your adjustments, and that puts it back, that puts it on top of the color layer. And that's the only way to do it. So like I said, Luminar Neo is good. It does a lot of things very quickly. It's keeping up on integrating AI features. Some of them, they're not really the pro levels that if you paid for a specific thing to do some of the stuff it has built into it, but it works, it's there, it's a lot quicker and cheaper than having to pay for a separate. All right, so we've made our adjustments. We got the windows looking good. Now we want to get rid of that distortion on the edge. And right now, the quickest and fastest, you can see I'm scaling just the bottom edge. You can see the windows are independent of that. So that's where you can go to layer properties if you want to scale some things around. You cannot, like, for example, in Photoshop, where if you grab one edge, you hold shift or option or whatever the command is, and it automatically pulls the other edge. This does not have that yet. So you have to pull one corner, then you got to go pull the opposite corner and then the other corner. That's where this is still frustrating. So it's easier just to crop out the distortion part of it than trying to fix and align two separate layers, because it's very difficult if you can get it to work, and I've spent some time on that. So you can see that it's the specific tool of crop under the very top layer properties, and you just kind of bring it in, whatever looks good to you. Crop out that bend. Now this can take a while in processing, but you see it popped right in. You would never know that that cabinet was there, anybody else, that it was bent, because of just what wide angle lenses do. Everything stays in sync with each other, both layers. It crops everything, not just the one that you may have had highlighted, the top or the bottom. And this image is, for the most part, done, except for those little finer detail areas, which we're not going to do. You know, this was just to get you going on this, because nobody has shown a tutorial like this in Luminar Neo. They always show the quick ways of doing things, not these finer I don't know if they're advanced techniques levels, but I have not found one that has shown you what I've shown you in this finer level of compositing. But once you're done, you just click the edit, choose where you want to export the final JPEG. You only need the JPEG. If you want to change the size, like I said, long edge is your left to right if you don't know. And whatever that, if you enter whatever the setting you enter, I just entered 4000. It will enter 4000 and automatically adjust the top to bottom, however you want to choose. But we're going to keep original. JPEG is fine. Don't worry about the other ones. PNGs, if really only if you needed, which supports transparency. So if you had like something cut out where it was a person, but then around it was nothing. TIFF also supports transparency, but these have higher file sizes and less compression. PDF, Photoshop, but you only ever need JPEG. So 72 for, digital is fine. You can push it up to 300 DPI, which would be to get more for printing, but not really many people print anymore. So keeping it at 72, quality 100. It's always keeping the best possible. You can go down to 80 and not really see any difference, maybe 70, but just keep it at 100 just so you get the best image to work with. And then from that, you could always export and compress different versions. You hit save. Sometimes this can take a little bit. And just go find where you exported the image. Green, the exterior is perfectly vibrant and lit. It's not blown out. The inside's nice and evenly bright. And that's how you get an exterior on interior photo. And real estate photos done. Some people use the flambient with flashes. If you use that, great. It's just more stuff you got to set up. I guess it's more used in really luxury high-end big homes. I haven't had the need to do it. This always gets the job done just as good. But to each their own. And that's it. So the virtual copy it doesn't create another file on your hard drive. It's just creating another version in here. And the reason I'm showing you this is how you can get a before and after with your image. So you did all that work, you have your final one, but you can't export a before with the same image. You have to remove all the color, the adjustments you've done and revert to the original. You can't just turn them off and export and then turn them back on. Again, you have to make another copy like I just did here, where you can see the before and after. Export that one. So if you want to start making a before and after portfolio of somehow people showing here's what it originally was and here's the final version, and this is what I can do for you and your listings kind of thing. That's what you have to do. You have to right click, make a virtual copy, remove all your color effect adjustments. Like I said, revert to original, then you export that one, and that's how you get an original. And it just puts it next to, they put them both together right there. So that button right there, if you had, hundreds of photos, would all be in a little film strip left to right there. That's what that one does. And you can close it and open it if you need a little more space. A little more image space to work with. And then this one is where you can do a slider just by sliding the line there left and right. It will show another way of a before and after, like you've seen on websites and a lot of different things. As you can see here, the before and after with our main preview. Just an on and off. But if you want to see a slider version, that's what that one is. So you can do it this way. as well. Different ways to the same end result. Here's your zoom levels, which you can also just do on a Mac is Command plus, Command minus. On Windows, I don't know if it's Alt plus, Alt minus, whatever it is. And here you can do some filtering. So if you're going through, say, a photo shoot of not real estate, but say some type of event, you're going through and you want to quickly go through but mark them. This is how you can do that with the heart, which is a favorite, or obviously the stars, which is a worst to best. And then you can filter them later and quickly recall those, just those ones that you want to see. But here's your presets. So if you make a preset, it's already got a bunch of built-in ones. I don't ever use these. But if you make one your own, that's where it will be. These are other AI gen things. Focus stacking, if you don't know what that is, that's when you take multiple individual focus levels of a product, like really, really close, and you blend those to get a perfect crisp image where there's no depth of blur. That's a whole nother thing. And then you got your thumbnail sizes, close the right, get a little more image space, a way of filtering them as far as organization, whether by capture time, editing time, ascending, descending, just to organize them that way. But then here's how you show your stars or flagged or favorites. Once you've done that, you can choose that over here, as well as some camera information if you want to organize them that way and pull them up that way. So it gives you a lot of stuff. Luminar Neo is pretty good. Needs a little work in some areas, but overall I've found this to be the best one.